At this juncture, may we call on the Honorable Ramon R. Mon Jimenez, Secretary of the Department of Tourism, to introduce our guest of honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Benigno S. Aquino III.
Thank you. Good morning. Please sit down. Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, Secretary Mon Jimenez, Secretary Mon Paje, Secretary Lucille Sering, Mr. Taleb Rifai, Governor, of course, the man of the hour, Governor Jose Maria Clemente Joey Salceda, who will be bringing back kimchi after he goes back to Korea, amongst other things. We can also accept bulgogi. Congressman Nando Gonzales and former Mayor Linda Gonzales, Representative Rodel Batocabe, Representative Delphine Lee, Mayor Noel Rosal, Governor Roger Mercado, Southern Leyte, Governor Jim Medjon of Mindoro Occidental, and Governor Araceli Wong of Catanduanes, heads of delegations, delegates of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, ASEAN International Conference on Tourism and Climate Change, members of the international organizations and non-governmental organizations present, fellow workers of government, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, again, good morning. Excuse me. A little more than 6 months ago, Typhoon Yolanda, or Typhoon Haiyan as it is known internationally, made landfall in the Philippines. You all know the tragedy of Yolanda. It affected 44 of our 81 provinces. Thousands of Filipinos lost their lives, and so many more lost their homes and literally everything they owned. And industries grinded to a halt. All of these happened despite thorough preparations made by government. Typhoon Yolanda, after all, was unprecedented in scale. Nobody had seen anything like it. The storm swept away some of our first responders, along with many of the relief goods we had pre-positioned, not to mention some of the equipment needed to conduct and relief operations. It laid waste to our airports, ports, and roads, complicating our relief efforts further. Truly, if it were not for the work and sacrifice for dedicated public servants, our people, and the international community, the disastrous effects of the typhoon would have been far worse. Their work allowed all those affected to get back on the road to recovery as soon as possible. It allowed us to start building back better earlier than what was expected even by those in the international community who have vast experience in disaster rehabilitation efforts. Now, we are making certain that the houses and the infrastructure we are rebuilding in the damaged areas will be sturdier and more resilient. The Department of Public Works and Highways, for instance, is already preparing new disaster-resilient designs for roads in that area. Furthermore, to make certain that even the reconstruction of roads proceeds in the quickest manner possible, the National Electrification Administration, amongst others, is ensuring that affected electric cooperatives are following the rules on easement. This involves making certain that poles and towers are constructed in a way that does not hamper reconstruction efforts. The NIA is likewise reviewing how power infrastructure can be constructed, such that the toppling of one tower does not lead to a cascading tumbling of multiple poles and towers in the same system. Despite the progress of our recovery efforts, we cannot ignore the resounding message that Typhoon Yolanda sent to the world. If we do not tackle it head-on, this new normal brought about by climate change will be here to stay, and we will be forced to continue to make unfair choices between disaster risk management and development. Make no mistake, all of us are stakeholders in this regard. Ignoring this problem means that the increasingly frequent and intense storms will continue to make landfall in our countries. Changes in temperatures will continue to decrease our water supply and threaten our food security. And island countries, such as those in the South Pacific, will continue to worry that within the span of decades, their countries may be consumed by the rising water levels and eventually cease to exist. These are alarming realities, and we must start taking action now. Taking on the challenge of climate change necessitates an international effort. We must come up with a more focused and more organized strategy to adapt to the risks it poses. This entails each country revisiting the way they approach every facet of governance to take into account how they affect the environment, from infrastructure to agriculture to energy. Needless to say, one of the sectors deeply concerned with the evolving demands of the new normal is tourism. This is precisely why we are here, joined by some of the most influential figures in the tourism sector, including the Secretary General of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, Dr. Talib Rifai, who is perhaps the world's most important ambassador of tourism as an engine for growth and inclusiveness. I've always referred to tourism in the Philippines as a low-lying fruit. Our country has so many natural gifts. In fact, if you look out some of the windows of this very hotel, you can see Mayon Volcano, known around the world as the volcano with the most perfect cone. To be honest with you, it took me 5 trips to this area for Mayon Volcano to reveal itself, because it was always shrouded with clouds and fog every time I was here. Such attractions, combined with our people's natural kindness and hospitality, make our country an excellent tourism destination. This is a significant opportunity for us because tourism's impact on the economy is instant. When visitors arrive, they ride local transport, eat in restaurants, and buy souvenirs. On average, each international tourist that visits our country spends almost $1,000 during their stay here. And I'm told that this number is growing even higher. Moreover, jobs in tourism rarely require lengthy or specialized training, meaning that a wider range of Filipinos can capitalize on the opportunities it creates right away. This is why we have focused our development efforts on this, amongst others, and the early results are extremely encouraging. Just last year, we welcomed 4.68 million international tourists, nearly 10% higher than the previous year, and we remain committed to breaching the 10 million mark by the time my term ends in about 2 years and 1 month. On top of this, in 2011, we beat our initial 2016 target of 35.5 million domestic travelers, recording 37.5 million in 2011 alone. Allow me to repeat that. We met our target for 2016 5 years ahead of schedule. This pushed us to set our sights higher. Now we have increased our 2016 target to 56.1 million domestic travelers, and we will remain in active pursuit of this target as well. Clearly, as long as tourism can be pursued in a sustainable manner, then it is certainly one of the best sectors to focus on and one of the shortest and efficient paths to inclusive growth. One of the best examples of how tourism, ecotourism in particular, can revitalize a community is the municipality of Donsol in Sorsogon in this region. With the help of the Department of Tourism and the Worldwide Fund for Nature, the local government of Donsol was able to capitalize on the presence of whale sharks, or butandings as we call them, around their waters. Largely due to the economic and social benefits of the project, as well as the active participation of the local community, Donsol went from a 6th-class municipality to a 1st-class municipality in less than 5 years. A municipality falls to 6th class when it earns less than 15 million pesos annually over the previous 4 calendar years. A 1st-class municipality, on the other hand, needs to have an annual average income of 55 million pesos or more, so 15 to at least 55 million. This growth has been felt across the board, most especially by the fishermen, whose income has been bumped up from 300 pesos a day to more than 1,000 pesos a day, depending on the season. On top of all this, the butanding has become an icon of Philippine tourism. They are even featured on the backs of our 100 peso bills. Truly, the success of Donsol is one that we want to replicate in many other potential tourist spots. The long-term viability of such programs, however, is tied to how we deal with the problem of climate change. It is true, We have some of the best beaches and dive spots in the world. Sadly, these areas are also the ones most vulnerable to climate risk, whether in the form of loss of biodiversity or coastal erosion. Our immediate response to plan ahead and reduce the impact of the effects of climate change on our tourist destinations, amongst others. The government has included climate change adaptation and mitigation as well as disaster risk reduction and management among the major considerations for future development. Our plan to mainstream climate change adaptation with local, sectoral, and national plans, all of which will consequently guide the development of tourist destinations and tourism activities per locality. With the increasing risks of climate change, this is something we encourage other ASEAN member countries as well as countries around the world to look into. Of course, we must also address the problem in the long term by striking a productive, sustainable balance as regards our reliance on fossil fuels. We have taken significant steps in this regard. For instance, we have introduced incentives that promote private sector investments in renewable energy projects. This initiative has borne fruit. In fact, I was just in Negros Occidental last week to inaugurate the 22-megawatt San Carlos solar energy plant, the first large-scale commercial solar plant in the country. This is a major step in expanding our country's energy mix and limiting the devastating effects of overdependence on traditional energy sources. To truly fix the problem, however, efforts such as this cannot come from just one country. This responsibility falls on the shoulders of every person, community, city, and nation, especially the ones that contribute a comparatively high amount of greenhouse gas emissions. I am hopeful that through conferences like this, we can continue to share ideas, new technologies, and best practices with one another and bring our region and our world closer to adapting to and mitigating the effects of the new normal. Indeed, these gatherings will be vital in responding to this issue. Climate change is real. It is a threat, not simply to our industries or to our economies. It is a grave threat to all our peoples. The sooner we move on a more united front, and the sooner we agree on a systematic, concerted effort to address the problem, the sooner we can make a more profound impact on changing the effects of climate change. Thus, I invite you all to work even closer together. Let us begin turning the situation around before it even gets worse. And let us endeavor to leave behind the world still teeming with opportunities, one that is without doubt better than how we found it. Thank you and good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Benigno S. Aquino III, President of the Republic of the Philippines.